Hi guys, it's Fiverr, and welcome back to another episode of Sugar Candy Miniatures. This week, in addition to being Halloween, happy Halloween, I got something real special for you. This is our 1,000 subscriber special. Thank you so much for everybody who's watched the channel, who's subscribed, who's left a comment, anything like that. It means a lot to me, and I'm so happy to be able to make a special video for you guys. I put out a poll, because I wanted to make whatever you guys wanted to see, pretty much, and the thing that won was painting a Space Marine. I have no knowledge of Space Marines starting this project out. I didn't know a thing about them. I couldn't name you any of the chapters except Ultramarines because they're everywhere. So I had to do a bit of research. My Discord server directed me to Arbiter Ian's videos, and I started learning the different Space Marine chapters. Because I had to pick my favorite, and then I would design a unit or legion or whatever, a squad, a group of special boys based off the chapter that I liked the best, the legion that I liked the best. And the one that I picked was World Eaters because Angron is a sad emo boy, and that's basically just every character in an anime that I've ever gravitated towards. So shout out to the audiobook that I listened to about his tragic backstory. Angron did a lot of things wrong by being murder crazy, but also he's a victim of circumstance. So we can't forgive the war crimes, but we can understand them. He's got a better reason to turn traitor than most of the other guys. Like, what's Fulgrim was just like, yeah, no, Agron's, he's never been given a real chance to succeed. He didn't have any resources at the start. This is not going to be an Angron apologist video, but it could be. Anyway, so I knew I wanted to design like a fun look for these guys and kind of harken back to the Rogue Trader Marines. Not because I have any nostalgia for Rogue Trader, I just like putting way too many patterns on the same design. Also, I wanted to make a Space Marine that was going to be complicated enough that I would only ever paint one of them, because I don't need to be starting any kind of Space Marine army. I appreciate the fact that you guys want to see me paint stuff, and a Space Marine is fine, but if I have to paint 500 Space Marines, I will not be having a good time. So I took it digital and started to come up with this design, roughly based off like a kind of Neapolitan ice cream sundae look. I wanted to do a full-on banana split, but when trying to draw the banana slice to go onto his little backpack, I realized that sculpting that, it was not very likely to turn out looking like a banana, so I opted for a croissant instead, which has a much more recognizable and less potentially problematic shape. Also, I made sure that the shoulder pad on his shoulder would vaguely resemble a gumdrop, because I love those 3rd edition shoulder pads that look like gumdrops. I think they're really cute. So here's what the finished design looks like. I think it looks pretty good. I called my chapter The Servants of the Last Feast, and I have written you a little bit of lore from them, but since I can't say all the fake Space Marine words like Sheen Seed without laughing, I got my buddy Destro to record it. So here is the lore behind The Servants of the Last Feast chapter.
Bear witness to the servants of the last feast, successors to the World Eaters' Legion of Lord Angron. These feared marines tote the adage to serve mankind, and are known to consume the flesh of those they conquer in weeks-long revels. Especially of value are the hearts of the defeated. It is said the servants of the last feast lay the table for Khorne himself.
And then what I realized after designing the Space Marine was I don't own a Space Marine model. Fortunately, I was headed to Gen Con, so I decided that I would just pick up a Space Marine while I was there. Along the way, I met friends, new and old, and people are generous. It's surprising. I was gifted both the Space Marine to paint and a bunch of cool pieces to kit bash him with. So I started putting him together once I got home. A lot of green stuff, a lot of testing out different bits. I was going full rule of cool here. I knew I wanted a lightning claw for him, maybe a cool backpack, but I was not interested in like tabletop legal or tournament legal or anything like that. It just was make him look cool. So this is the final design for our boy. He's got a lightning claw, he's got a chain sword, he's got a croissant on his backpack that's got like a sun thing coming out of it, which looks really cool. And it was time to start painting him up. I started by doing the drinking straw tubing that he's got. I don't know what it is supposed to be on a real Space Marine, but for our candy boy, his is made of drinking straws, so I base coated them pink. Then I went on to kind of mark out that quarter pattern by doing 2 quarters of him in chocolate brown. I used a speed paint for this just because I had those speed paints and wanted to test them out. Next up was blocking in the tan backpack to get that to stand out, which I don't have footage of. But then I moved on to painting the yellow parts, so basically the other quarters of him, just working off of the design that I had come up with and adapting it to the actual model of the Marine that I had, like in the template. He doesn't have that tabard or anything, but it's pretty easy to work around, so no big deal there. After that, I started blocking in the red for his gumdrop shoulder pad and decided to carry that color over into the tabard and some of the other details. Next up, I decided to start blocking in all of the patterns. It's very important when painting checkers to make sure that you record everything off screen, because that's the best way to teach people your technique. Basically, you just paint one square at a time and then connect it to the next square, and then do that forever until your hands fall off. I also got round. I ended up re-base coating the tubing white because painting white stripes on pink wasn't showing up very good, and I wanted a bolder pink in the end. So I repainted them white, and then I added stripes with golden so flat pink. I also added in some white at the top of the shoulder pad to kind of give it that sugar dusted gumdrop look that I was really looking for there. Next up, it was adding the lattice pattern on all of the tan parts so that they would read as waffle cone. This is tedious and takes forever, but that again was kind of the goal of this project, to add as many patterns as possible. Afterwards, I did some highlighting to the chocolate with Skag Brown, which I have found is the best color for getting that initial edge highlight on chocolate parts. Definitely make sure that it looks like chocolate and not just like random dirt, at least in my opinion. I also went in and with some flesh tone added a bit of more of a highlight to the chocolate parts, which really just gets it to read correctly. And I could have kept highlighting up from here if I wanted to give him kind of a really clean, polished look and make sure that the colors were all bright, kind of in the usual style that I would do for one of my typical paint jobs. But this is a Space Marine, and he's supposed to be grimdark and bloody and Space Marine-y. So I doused the whole thing in Reikland Flesh Shade because I wanted him to be grungy. He can't just be a fresh pastry right from the case. He's been sitting around. He's been covered in blood. He's going to war. So he got doused in all of this Reichland flesh shade, and I knew it would make him all grungy and gross, which is exactly what we want from our Space Marines. If you guys want me to paint a Space Marine, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna try and get that grimdark feel. But I couldn't go full grimdark. Like, I needed to make sure that the candy aesthetic was still there. And then I did touch up a few areas after the wash, adding in some brighter red, so that the lenses in his little eye sockets would still read. Some of you are going to be like, what is that thing on his face? Why he got a weird antenna? I wanted to kind of do a rhino beetle look for the helm. I just thought it would be cool. I don't know that it ended up working the best in the finished design, but you know, it was what I wanted. It was a thought that I had, and I committed to it, and we don't regret it, because some Space Marines get special helmets. Maybe it just looks like a cherry stem, and you can picture his whole head being just a giant little cherry, and maybe that's funny if you're me, or you can hate it and rip it off. That's fine. I kept it on. I think he looks cool. Before the big reveal, I just want to say thank you one more time. When I first created this channel, I didn't really think that it was going to get seen by a lot of people. So the fact that we're up to 1,000 subscribers really makes a big difference to me. A special thanks to my top tier patrons, Paul No and Annie. You guys are the best. I really, really, really appreciate you, and each and every one of you who's ever watched a video, left a comment, anything like that. Thank you again so much for being here. I hope you like the finished Space Marine. And here he is in all of his grim, dark, candy-coated glory. I hope you like him. If you want to support more of my work, I have a Patreon, I have a Ko-fi, we have a cool Discord server, and I do have an Instagram. All of that will be linked in the description below. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Leave a like, drop a comment, do all that YouTube stuff, and once more, happy Halloween!